Ramachandran, coming up in the next hour. New Delhi rejects attempts by China to rename places in the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh, says assigning invented names will not alter the reality that Arunachal Pradesh is, has been and will always be an integral and inalienable part of India. 7 Iranian military personnel, including 3 senior commanders, killed in airstrikes on Iran's consulate at Damascus in Syria. Tokyo protests North Korea's ballistic missile launch into the Sea of Japan. South Korea's military says the missile appears to be of an intermediate range. And the US and UK announced a partnership on the science of artificial intelligence safety to address national security and societal concerns. India has slammed China for renaming places in the northeastern state of Arunachal Pradesh. The External Affairs Ministry said in a statement, and I quote, "China has persisted with its senseless attempts to rename places in the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. We firmly reject such attempts. Assigning invented names will not alter the reality that Arunachal Pradesh is, has been and will always be an integral and inalienable part of India," unquote. India's Earth Sciences Minister Kiren Rijiju took to X to say that India has the sovereign right to develop its border areas and every Indian has an absolute right to visit every part of the country's territory. Minister Rijiju wrote that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has changed the Congress's policy of keeping the nation's border underdeveloped and made the border villages the first villages of the country. Locals from Papumpare district of Arunachal Pradesh have expressed anger over China's claim on their land. They said Arunachal Pradesh has always been a part of India and will continue to remain Indian territory.
चाइना बोल रहा है कि अरुणाचल मुल्क का पार्ट है, ऐसा नहीं है। अरुणाचल इंडिया का पार्ट है और हमेशा रहेगा। जय हिंद, जय भारत।
हम योगी भाई है और चाइना क्लेम कर रहा है कि अरुणाचल चाइना का है, पर ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है। अरुणाचल इंडिया का है और इंडिया का ही रहेगा और हम इंडियन है और इंडियन ही रहेंगे।
और चाइना बोल रहे हैं कि अरुणाचल वो लोग का है, बट अरुणाचल हम लोग का ही है, इंडिया का ही, और हम लोग इंडियन ही रहेगा।
And my colleague Jessica Taneja now joins us. Jessica, why is China repeatedly making these claims?
Well, this is not the first time, Ramesh, that China has made such territorial claims. In fact, the issue dates back to when the line of actual control, the boundary that was drawn by around that time, and how it was contested when China refused to acknowledge the boundary that was drawn in 1921. So with that kept in mind, a little bit of a historical context there, but talking about Arunachal Pradesh in particular, the recent 30 places that the Chinese have tried to rename according to their geographical maps, and their officials have released those names, have of course caused another stir at this point, particularly because it's not the first time they've done it, and perhaps remains open to continuing to trouble India with these little sort of changes of names here and there. Well, you heard from the responses from the Ministry of External Affairs Foreign Affairs Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, also made a remark, and I would quote him when he says that if I change the name of your house, will it be mine? He said Arunachal Pradesh is an Indian state and will always remain one in the future. So it has recently invited a lot of remarks from both the sides, but particularly China's continued response or continued stance on how Arunachal Pradesh, as it considers it to be part of South Tibet, it has been disputed by India and so far even backed by the United States of America. You must have heard last two weeks ago, the US spokesperson as well had clarified that US recognizes Arunachal Pradesh as Indian territory and not Chinese.
Also, Jessica, this is not the first time China has sought to rename places in Arunachal Pradesh. How has India been responding to these claims?
Well, so far there has been a lot of border infrastructure development as well. Militarily, there has been a response and increasing of troops along the line of actual control, wherein we've seen the inauguration of the Sela tunnel just earlier this month, Ramesh, in Tawang, which is a crucial point. The last 2020 clashes that took place on the border dispute were in Tawang. Now that elevated tunnel at an altitude of 13,000 feet allows India to forward its forces on the line of actual control, and it's going to give an all-round year connectivity towards the Indian states as of Assam and Guwahati as well. So given the kind of border infrastructure development the country has been investing in, has been a response. Apart from that, there has been sharp criticism about China's claims over Arunachal Pradesh in the past as well, especially when it claimed that it's part of its southern Tibetan boundary. Of course, also making historical links with the oldest Tibetan monastery in the region in Arunachal Pradesh. So, of course, India has been able to respond to those very sharply, not just to the Chinese, but also in various multilateral forums and discussions as well.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Jessica, thank you. That was my colleague Jessica Taneja on the latest developments. Moving on, India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh attended the Army Commanders Conference in New Delhi on Tuesday. The apex leadership of the Army is deliberating upon the emerging threat scenario, operational challenges, reform and plans for modernization. One of the key items on the agenda is cyber security as well as integration with other services and futuristic warfare technologies. The first for the year 2024, the Army Commanders Conference was held in virtual mode on 28th March, and thereafter the two-day physical mode began on Monday. Shifting focus to West Asia now, Syria and Iran on Tuesday condemned a suspected Israeli strike on the Iranian consulate in Syria's capital, Damascus. The consulate building is located next to the Iranian embassy in Syria's capital city. 7 people were killed, including 3 senior Iranian commanders. An Israeli military spokesperson said that it does not comment on foreign media reports. Syria's foreign minister condemned in the strongest terms the allegedly Israeli criminal attacks and called them a flagrant violation of international law. For his part, Iran's foreign minister has said that the attack violated all international obligations and conventions. White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre said that the U.S. president is aware of reports of Israeli airstrikes in Damascus. According to reports, the U.S. told Iran that it had no involvement or prior knowledge of the Israeli strikes. Russia too has condemned the strikes in Syria and called on Israel to cease such completely unacceptable actions. Alex Carrier now joins us from Tel Aviv for more. Alex, what more can you tell us about the attack on Iran's consulate in Damascus?
Well, it was a strike attributed by Iranian state media to the Israeli Air Force. We understand that it was hit a building adjacent to the Iranian embassy, which the Iranians say was being used as a consular building. We understand that General Mohammad Reza Zahedi was the Revolutionary Guard's commander in Syria and Lebanon. He, his deputy, and 5 other Revolutionary Guard members were killed in this strike, and we understand that he was the most senior Iranian commander killed since the US strike against Qasem Soleimani in January 2020. So this will be seen as a very high-level strike. Now, we do not have confirmation from the Israelis that they were behind this strike, but security sources speaking to the Reuters news agency, as well as Iranian state media, confirming that the Israelis were behind this strike. Now, we've heard from the Iranian president who has sworn that a response would come. We heard that from the Iranian ambassador to Damascus yesterday, who said Iran will decisively respond. Now, the real concern here in Israel is that this could lead to an escalation in the conflict in the north, of course, because Hezbollah is backed by Iran, and Hezbollah has also vowed to avenge those killed in this strike. Now, that conflict in the north of Israel, on the border with Lebanon, with Hezbollah in southern Lebanon firing rockets into Israel and the Israeli forces retaliating, that conflict really has been simmering over the last few weeks, and there's a real concern now that following this strike and following Iran's response, we could see that simmer turn to a boil, and this conflict turning to all-out war in the north.
Let's now talk a bit, if you will, about the Israel-Hamas conflict. Alex, has Israel given any indication yet whether it will rethink its Rafah operation?
Well, we've had a little bit of information from the conversations between the Israelis and the United States in that virtual meeting. They've now said that they promise to meet again in person next week, and that they share the goal of eliminating Hamas in Rafah. We don't have more details about exactly how that would look, and you still have the concern of civilians needing to be evacuated from Rafah. You have 1 million people there, mostly displaced people, stuck up against the Egyptian border, unable to return north and unable to move anywhere else. And so a military operation there, according to US officials, could lead to a mass casualty event. But the situation, the humanitarian situation on the ground in Gaza, remains absolutely catastrophic. And in the last few minutes, we had confirmation that 7 aid workers from the World Central Kitchen were killed in an Israeli airstrike, and the Israeli armed forces saying that they are thoroughly investigating this tragic incident, as they called it. Those aid workers, 1 Palestinian, 1 Australian, 1 British aid worker, as well as a Polish one, and dual nationals from the United States and Canada, traveling in clearly branded World Central Kitchen cars, we understand from the organization, and still struck by that Israeli airstrike. Now, we understand that they have now suspended their aid operations in Gaza, so irrespective of what happens next with Rafah or the fighting between Israel and Hamas, that humanitarian situation in the ground in Gaza will only get worse.
And very quickly, before we let you go, Alex, what's been the outcome of the ceasefire talks in Cairo?
Well, the ceasefire talks, we understand, are ongoing, and there's been a little bit of flexibility shown by Israel. According to Israeli officials, they say they are open to allowing more civilians to returning to northern Gaza. That was one of the 3 main sticking points that led Hamas to reject the last proposal that had been on the table. Those 3 sticking points were a long-lasting ceasefire, the full withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza, and the return of civilians to northern Gaza. On the first 2, a long ceasefire and the withdrawal of Israeli troops, Israel says no, that will never happen. On the third, the return of civilians to northern Gaza, Israel says it's willing to show more flexibility to allow more civilians into northern Gaza if they show through security checks that they are not in any way affiliated to Hamas or any of the other groups. So now those talks between Israelis and mediators ongoing in Cairo. Hamas did not send a delegation, did not engage with this latest round of talks directly, but says it waits to hear the outcome from those mediations. So at the moment, ceasefire talks ongoing, but no end in sight, and certainly no deal to be reached in the near future.
Alex, thank you. Alex Kadir reporting there from Tel Aviv. And still to come on DD India News Hour. US Secretary of State to call on the President of France in Paris for talks on Ukraine and Gaza. The US states of Wisconsin, Connecticut, New York and Rhode Island to hold an election for nominating candidates for the presidential election. And North Korea fires a ballistic missile, sparks an immediate condemnation from Japan.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times. In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights and authentic.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. The US and UK have announced a new partnership on artificial intelligence safety. The agreement comes amid concerns about upcoming next generation versions of AI. US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo and British Technology Secretary Michelle Donnellan signed a memorandum of understanding in Washington, D.C. The UK and the US are among the countries establishing a government-led AI Safety Institute. Several US states are holding presidential primaries on Tuesday, with President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump expected to win across the board. Voters will head to the polls in the states of Wisconsin, Connecticut, New York and Rhode Island. But some residents are planning on using the vote as an opportunity to protest against the leading candidates. Sally Patterson has more from New York City.
US President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are the favourites in their respective primaries. Neither candidate faces a strong challenge, and they've both already secured more delegates than they need to win their party's nominations. That process will happen at their conventions in July and August. That's when the Biden-Trump rematch becomes official. But that doesn't mean it's all smooth sailing. Voters can decide to register a protest vote against Biden or Trump if they're not happy with the options. In Connecticut and Rhode Island, residents will have the option of voting uncommitted. In Wisconsin, voters can choose uninstructed delegation on their ballot. Wisconsin is a pivotal battleground state in the US, and some voters there are organising over the war in Gaza. A group of activists are aiming to show they're unhappy with Biden's ongoing support for Israel by refusing to vote for him on the ballot. But analysts warn caution in putting too much significance on Gaza when it comes to the US electorate. According to Gallup Research Group, the number of voters who list it as the nation's most important problem is under 1%. The leading key issue for voters include the economy, immigration and crime. Sally Patterson in New York, reporting for DD India.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is on a 5-day trip to France and Belgium. Antony Blinken departed for Paris on Monday, where he will meet French President Emmanuel Macron and discuss global issues including support for Ukraine, preventing the spread of conflict in Gaza and stabilizing Haiti. He will also attend the NATO Foreign Ministers meeting in Brussels and meet NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg and Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba. Blinken will participate in the 6th US-EU Trade and Technology Council at Leuven near Brussels. And Ross Cullen joins us from Paris for more. Ross, what more can you tell us about Blinken's engagements in Paris?
He is going to be holding a working lunch with Stéphane Séjourné, his French counterpart, in a couple of hours' time, and the two men will hold a press conference after that. And then at the end of the afternoon, local time here, Anthony Blinken and Emmanuel Macron will hold face-to-face talks behind closed doors at the Élysée Palace. Lots for them to discuss. The Middle East will be top of the agenda, the situation in Gaza, trying to see if there can be a way to avoid this planned Israeli offensive in Rafah in the south of the Gaza Strip. Also reaction to that strike believed to be by Israel on an apartment complex in Damascus, killing leading Iranian commanders. That could well see an escalation and a response by Tehran potentially to Israel. So they'll be discussing that situation, the ongoing attempts to try to find a temporary or a permanent ceasefire, more aid for the Palestinians to try to avoid famine inside the Gaza Strip. So the Middle East will be high on the agenda. Ukraine as well. Stéphane Séjourné, the French foreign minister, just back from a trip to Beijing, and so he will be updating his American counterparts on the latest there. We know that he and Mr. Séjourné did push Beijing to try to bring forward a resolution to the conflict using Beijing's influence with Moscow, asking China to play a key role in bringing the conflict to a close with its ally in the Kremlin. So there will be discussions about the Middle East, discussions about Ukraine, Haiti, as you mentioned, former French colony in the Caribbean, broadly French speaking, like Mr. Blinken as well, a French speaker, and so they will be looking to see if this Kenyan-led initiative can maybe find a way forward with the UN peacekeeping mission, if there can be a transitional council approved excuse me, to get people in place, a Prime Minister to replace Mr. Ariel Henry, who resigned. Lots for the two men to get their teeth stuck into over lunch, and then also in the meetings with Emmanuel Macron later.
Now, Blinken will next travel to Brussels for a NATO foreign ministers meeting. What might be on the agenda for him there?
Ukraine will be top of the agenda for Mr. Blinken when he joins other foreign ministers. The two men, him and Mr. Séjourné, they will be meeting here in Paris today, Tuesday, on Wednesday, both of them travelling to Belgium for the NATO Foreign Ministers Summit, and how to support Ukraine, how to shore up NATO's eastern flank against ongoing Russian aggression, against ongoing Russian missile and drone strikes. This lack of ammunition, lack of shells, lack of trenches as well being dug by the Ukrainian armed forces will be high on the list of the ministers when they meet for the foreign ministers summits in the NATO headquarters. Also looking forward to the 75th anniversary of the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation being formed. There will be some events in Brussels, but the main ceremony will be taking place in the United States in July.
Ross, thank you. Ross Cullen reporting there from Paris. Moving on, US authorities working on the Baltimore bridge collapse have opened the first of two small temporary channels to let ships access the site of the incident. These channels will initially only be open to vessels involved in the Francis Scott Key Bridge cleanup operation and will not be big enough to allow cargo and container ships to pass through. This effort marks the first step in reopening the port of Baltimore after the bridge collapsed, killing 6 people. The U.S. government released $60 million in initial emergency aid on Thursday to assist in cleaning up the bridge debris and reopening the port. Russia and Ukraine claim to have downed each other's drones over the Black Sea on Monday. Russia's defense ministry said that its air defense units intercepted 6 Ukrainian drones attempting to carry out a terrorist attack. For its part, Ukraine said that its forces downed a Russian 4-post drone, which it described as one of the most sophisticated and costly in Moscow's arsenal. Both sides are apparently devoting increasing attention to developing and using unmanned aircraft in their more than 2-year-old conflict. A Moscow court has remanded a 10th suspect in the 22nd March concert hall attack in custody until 22nd of May pending trial. The court said that Yusufzoda Yakubjoni Dalovkhon, a native of Tajikistan, has been charged under Russia's terrorist act. Earlier on Sunday, Russia's State Security Service said that foreign fighters detained in Russia's southern region of Dagestan were involved in the financing of the attack. The FSB said that one of the 4 detained men had confessed to personally bringing weapons to the Moscow attackers. At least 144 people were killed in the 22nd March attack. The Islamic State has claimed responsibility, but Russia is investigating other angles. The government of France has raised its terror alert warning to its highest level after the Moscow concert hall attack. The decision was taken in light of the Islamic State claiming responsibility for the Moscow attack and the threats weighing on France. The alert allows for exceptional security measures such as stepped-up patrols by the armed forces in public places such as train stations, airports and religious sites. The development comes months before Paris hosts the 2024 Olympic Games. Moving to the Indo-Pacific now, where North Korea fired a ballistic missile off the country's east coast in a move that sparked immediate condemnation from the Prime Minister of Japan. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said that it detected the launch of what appeared to be a ballistic missile of an intermediate range class from the area of the North Korean capital Pyongyang. Japan's Coast Guard said that the apparent missile had already fallen into the sea. Amid concerns Russia and North Korea are developing closer military links, the US and its major Asian allies, namely South Korea and Japan, are expanding their security cooperation. The US is arranging a summit between President Joe Biden and his Japanese and South Korean counterparts in July on the sidelines of a NATO summit in Washington, D.C. Now, this is the third test of ballistic missiles from Kim Jong-un's regime this year. On 18th March, North Korea fired at least 6 short-range ballistic missiles as the leader oversaw tests of multiple rocket launcher systems. In more news from the region, South Korea on Tuesday imposed sanctions on 2 Russian individuals and their companies linked to North Korea's nuclear and missile programs. It will also slap sanctions on 2 Russian vessels involved in shipping containers of military supplies between Moscow and Pyongyang. Japan has launched a protest over suspected North Korea ballistic missile launch into the Sea of Japan. Japan's Prime Minister Kishida Fumio condemned North Korea for the launch that he said affected the peace and stability of the region. He said that there was no confirmed damage because of the missile. All right, now take a look at some more stories making news around the world. Google agreed to destroy billions of data records to settle a lawsuit claiming that it secretly tracked the internet use of people who thought they were browsing privately. Terms of the settlement were filed on Monday in a court in the state of California. It requires approval by the judge. Lawyers for the plaintiffs value the accord at more than $5 billion and as high as $7.8 billion. The investment banking company Citi is laying off 430 employees in New York City for quote-unquote economic reasons, affecting multiple departments including Citibank's primary banking unit, technology and broker-dealer arms. The layoffs are scheduled for 9th of June as part of a broader goal to reduce its global workforce by 20,000 over 2 years. A recent excavation in Kanchanaburi's Sankaburi district of Thailand has uncovered a World War II bunker. The bunker is believed to have been constructed during the era when Japanese troops compelled prisoners of war to build the infamous Thailand-Burma Railway, commonly referred to as the Death Railway. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India's response to China's claims on Arunachal Pradesh. India election updates, the largest democratic exercise of its kind in the world. And polling for Pakistan's Senate begins, a total of 30 out of 48 seats to be filled.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. New Delhi rejects attempts by China to rename places in the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh, says assigning invented names will not alter the reality that Arunachal Pradesh is, has been and will always be an integral and inalienable part of India. 7 Iranian military personnel, including 3 senior commanders, killed in airstrikes on Iran's consulate in Syria's capital, Damascus. And Tokyo protests North Korea ballistic missile launch into the Sea of Japan. South Korea's military says the missile appears to be of an intermediate range. All right, going back to the top story, India rejects attempts by China to rename places in the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. New Delhi says assigning invented names will not alter the reality that Arunachal Pradesh is, has been and will always be an integral and inalienable part of India. Joining me is Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, retired. General Kulkarni is a former Director General Infantry of the Indian Army. He had commanded a division along the line of actual control in Arunachal Pradesh, where he was also decorated with the Governor's Gold Medal. General Kulkarni, welcome to DD India News Hour. To begin with, General Kulkarni, how would you define China's behavior? Cartographic aggression, coercion, expansionism, war by other means, or all of the above?
Thank you, Ramesh. I would say devious means to disturb the peace and tranquility along the LAC. China is not hesitating to use all means, whether it's political, cultural, technological, military, all and everything, trying to, intrusions, coercions, just to toe the Chinese line. And now this. Some of these inventions, which were the names for Arunachal Pradesh, which everybody knows. Just imagine from 2017 is what the process starts, and that's immediately after Doklam. 2017, 5 places named. 2021, another 15 places named. 2023, another 11 places named. Now 30. All this, very well said. I think we have really been able to tell China to stop all these absolutely ridiculous claims. They always were, they will always remain. Arunachal is and will always remain an inalienable part of India. It's an integral part of India. There is no denying the fact, and they are aware of it. But Chinese have their own ways, the devious means, and all these talks, Ramesh, are our facades. All talks, communications. We've had 21 rounds of talks, nothing much achieved in all these talks except for a little bit of a disengagement at places which always was ours. When you look at this 29 rounds of the WMCC, all of it, nothing very much. We'll come back and talk again. So all these talks are facades, gaining time to continue to pressurize India to toe its line, because China feels that somewhere or the other, India's growth must be prevented. And now they found that the Prime Minister goes and dedicates a tunnel, the Sela tunnel, to the nation in Arunachal Pradesh. So they take that as something that is there. I can't understand, if China wants peace with India, if China wants to have good relations with India, it hinges on one thing: peace and tranquility all along the LAC. If China cannot do that, China should not expect good relations from India, because always, every time you trade or anything for that matter, any relation with China, if we continue to have tension along the LAC, how do anybody for that matter, would the Chinese like if we were to do the same to them? I'm sure Chinese understand that it is something which should not be done. And therefore, Ramesh, I firmly believe that it's all baseless, and the Chinese must be, the way the statements have been issued are absolutely apt, and we must be clearly told to China, come on, lay off, don't start inventing and reinventing. Arunachal Pradesh is a part of India, an integral part of India, and will continue to be so always and every time. Yeah.
General, it's not the first time that China is behaving in this manner. As you said just now, it sought to rename 6 locations in Arunachal Pradesh in 2017, 15 places in 2021, 11 places in 2023, and now 30 places. Now, how should India respond to or impose costs on such Chinese behavior?
See, Ramesh, first and foremost, we must just ignore it, not even bother to what the Chinese do. Let them do whatever it is. For Doklam, they say, no, it's not Doklam, it's Donglang, and whatever it be. Let the Chinese do what it wants to. We must be vigilant. We must not let our guard down. We must ensure that there has to be peace at all times, and we must be concerned with the Chinese behavior, because it's, the way its build-up is going on, irrespective of the talks, irrespective of the communications, whatever the diplomatic relations that they exist and all of it, we have to be vigilant. We have to be able to convey to China that we mean business, and if you try and do anything wrong along the LAC, we will respond, and respond in the manner in which, the same manner in which it will hurt you. That must be, and for which it is very essential. Obviously, it has a lot of cost to pay for, but it is essential. We must be vigilant, we must be prepared at all times, and be ready should the Chinese want to do anything which is disturbing the peace and tranquility along the LAC. I would say vigilance and not letting it guard down, and be able to convey, and clearly, no trade, no relations can take place until and unless there is peace and tranquility. The least that you can do is to maintain status quo as on May 2020. That's the least that they can do, and I find no reason, because I've been along that place all along this while, at least till 2016, till I retired, and I found them, the relations were excellent. There was nothing wrong till what they did at Galwan. And I think it's time the Chinese understood that no way. And I think we've really been able to convey to China in no uncertain terms that we do not accept this kind of a behavior by the Chinese along the LAC, and they will be given back in the same coin. Yeah.
General Kulkarni, I have just about enough time to ask you one last question on this discussion. Now, this is a question that's agitating many a mind as we speak. Does it call for a reassessment of India's China policy? For instance, should India's one China policy be consigned to the dustbin if it's not already the case?
Definitely. I think, if we've been nice to them, if we've been going out of our way to ensure and been saying all along one China policy, and if that is what it means, and if this is the way the Chinese react, we should clearly say, and no more call Tibet a part of China then. We should always be saying, well, Tibet was always an autonomous region, and therefore it should continue to be so. Why necessarily just because at one point of time we accept one China policy, we accept what had all along. Even Taiwan we accept as part of one China policy. But then, if this is what the Chinese are supposed to be doing, I'm sure we should, reassess, give a relook to what the Chinese are doing, and be able to tell them we do not accept this kind of a thing. the kind of, the engagement and the kind of debt diplomacy does, the kind of pressurizing our neighbors, be it Nepal, be it Maldives, be it Myanmar, all these kind of things are resulting in what? Tension. And
Right.
tensions along the LAC. And I don't think we should accept and pay back China in the same coin.
General Kulkarni, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. In some more news from South Asia, elections on 30 vacant Senate seats are currently underway in Pakistan's National Assembly and provincial legislatures of Punjab and Sindh. Polling in the provincial assemblies of Sindh and Punjab began at 9 a.m. local time. In Islamabad, polling is being held for the election of 2 senators. 18 candidates were elected unopposed from Punjab and Balochistan. The Election Commission of Pakistan has notified postponement of Senate elections in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa because of a dispute over the oath-taking of members elected on reserved seats. The Senate has remained dysfunctional since 11th of March after the retirement of 52 lawmakers. India's External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar attended a Bharat Bhagya Vidhata program in the western state of Gujarat. He spoke about India's democratic journey and economic growth.
पिछले 10 साल में ये साबित किया है कि डेमोक्रेसी कैन डिलीवर, कि आज जो है ये भारत जो कोविड के बावजूद, क्योंकि बहुत सारे देश जो हैं अभी तक उनकी कोविड के बाद, महामारी के बाद उनकी इकोनॉमिक रिकवरी नहीं हुई है, कि कोविड के बाद अगर फिर से हम अभी 7% ग्रोथ की तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं तो दुनिया सोचती है कि भाई ये सचमुच कमाल की बात है.
Alright, let's now get you the latest on the world's largest democratic election in India. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday addressed a public rally in the northern state of Uttarakhand. Addressing the gathering, the Prime Minister slammed the opposition Congress party for appeasement politics and opposing the implementation of the Citizenship Amendment Act in the country.
कांग्रेस तुष्टीकरण के दलदल में ऐसा धंस गई है कि कभी देश हित का सोच ही नहीं सकते. यही कांग्रेस है जो घुसपैठियों को बढ़ावा देती है, लेकिन जब भाजपा सीएए के माध्यम से मां भारती में आस्था रखने वालों को भारत की नागरिकता देती है तो कांग्रेस को सबसे ज्यादा तकलीफ होती है. इस क्षेत्र के लोग भी जानते हैं कि पाकिस्तान और बांग्लादेश से जो शरणार्थी आए हैं उनमें से अधिकतर दलित परिवार है, हमारे सिख भाई बहन हैं, हमारे बंगाली भाई बहन हैं, लेकिन कांग्रेस इन लोगों को नागरिकता देने का विरोध कर रही है.
India's Home Minister and senior BJP leader Amit Shah began the party's campaign in Karnataka today. He addressed a public rally at the Bengaluru Palace ground. Later in the day, he will hold a roadshow at Chennapatna. This is seen as a big outreach by Minister Shah to make inroads into the old Mysuru region. The BJP has entered into an alliance with the JDS and hopes to cash in on the Vokkaliga community-dominated Mysuru region, where the JDS had its dominance a few years ago. India's opposition Congress party will release its manifesto for the parliamentary election on 5th April. Party President Mallikarjun Kharge, along with other Congress leaders, including Sonia Gandhi and others, would be present at a rally the day after. The Congress has released a list of candidates for the states of Maharashtra and Telangana. The party has fielded Abhay Kashinath Patil from Akola in Maharashtra and Kadiyam Kavya is set to contest from Warangal in Telangana. And now take a look at some other stories making news in India. India yoga guru Ramdev and his aide Balakrishna on Monday appeared in the country's top court over Patanjali Ayurveda's misleading advertisements. The court asked Ramdev and Balakrishna to remain present before it on the next date of hearing on 10th April. The court came down heavily on Ramdev and Balakrishna for failing to obey its directives. An apology was also submitted to the court by them. A fire broke out at Navbharat Industrial Chemical Company in Navi Mumbai on Tuesday morning local time. Firefighting operations were on at the location. No injuries or casualties were reported. The cause of the fire is not certain. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Indian men's hockey team leaves for Australia for a 5-match test series.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times. In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights and authentic information.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. An Indian Coast Guard vessel, Samudra Peredar, made a port call at Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam on Tuesday as part of its ongoing overseas deployment to the ASEAN countries. A significant boost to India's defense capabilities and its cooperation with South America, Guyana has received 2 Dornier planes from India's Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Guyana's President Dr. Irfan Ali said, and I quote, "The planes arrived at Chedi Jagan International Airport last evening aboard 2 Boeing C-17 Globemaster military transport planes," unquote. An Indian Air Force team in Guyana delivered the aircraft as part of India's line of credit agreement signed on 15th of March. The Dornier 228 aircraft is well known for its versatility and reliability, making it an ideal choice for a wide range of military and civilian applications. The World Bank lowered Bangladesh's GDP growth forecast by 0.1 percentage point to 5.7% for the fiscal year 2025. World Bank officials, during an address in the capital Dhaka on Tuesday, said high inflation, a persistent balance of payments deficit, financial sector vulnerabilities and global economic uncertainty have all been disruptive for the post-pandemic recovery of the country's economy. Growth projection remained unchanged for the current fiscal for Bangladesh. The bank says that urgent monetary reform and a single exchange rate regime will be crucial to improving the foreign exchange reserves and easing of inflation. And now to all the news from the world of sport with Deepika. Deepika, over to you.
Thanks and good afternoon. Let's quickly take our viewers through all that is passing in the world of sports. First, from the world of soccer. Well, in Italian Soccer League, Syria A runaway leaders Inter Milan continued its seemingly unstoppable march to Syria A title after an early goal from Federico Di Marco and a late effort from Alexis Sanchez that secured a 2-0 victory at home against Empoli on Monday. Now, Inter is at the top of the table with 79 points, which are 14 ahead of City rivals AC Milan in second place with 8 matches left to play. Empoli is 18th with 25 points. The results pushed Empoli into the relegation zone, level on points with Frosinone in 17th and 1 point ahead of 19th place Sassuolo. On to tennis now. Former world number 1 Caroline Wozniacki eased to a dominating straight set victory over American McCartney Kessler in the opening round of the Charleston Open on Monday. The Danish wildcard entry and 2011 champion in the South Carolina city advanced to the second round with a 6-0, 6-1 victory in just 61 minutes. Up next for Wozniacki is Ukrainian 15th seed Annalena Kelina, who she lost to 2 weeks ago from match point up at the Miami Open. Indian men's hockey team left for Australia for a 5-match test series on Monday night. The tour will serve as a litmus test for the Indian team in their preparations for the upcoming 2024 Paris Olympics. The team is now all set to embark on a significant journey as they head towards Australia for an intense 5-match test series. The series is scheduled to kick off on the 6th of April in Perth, making an important phase in team's preparation for the upcoming Olympic Games. Now, having last showcased their prowess during the Bhubaneswar and Rourkela leg of the FIH Pro League, the Harmanpreet Singh-led team demonstrated exceptional skills and resilience, clinching victory in 3 out of 4 matches in Bhubaneswar and maintaining an unbeaten streak in Rourkela. India will take on Australia in the opening match of the series on the 6th of April. Moving on to chess now, Arjuna Rigaisi replaced 5-time world champion Vishwanathan Anand as the highest ranked Indian in the official FIDE ratings list. Arjun is currently placed 7th in the world rankings with a live rating of 2,758.3. The 20-year-old leapfrogged Anand in the live rating list in the month of March. Arjun also became only the second Indian after D. Gukesh to surpass Vishwanathan Anand as the Indian number 1 on a published FIDE rating list. He is also the 4th Indian after Anand, Pentela Harikrishna and Gukesh D to enter the top 10 rankings across the world. On to cricket now. Royal Challengers Bengaluru will take on Lucknow Super Giants at the Grand Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bengaluru today. RCB is all set to play their 4th game of the current season. After losing the opening game against defending champions Chennai Super Kings, RCB bounced back with a victory in their second game against the Punjab Kings by 4 wickets. RCB, however, handed an absolute demoralizing defeat by Kolkata Knight Riders in the 3rd game. Lucknow Super Giants, on the other hand, kicked off their campaign with a loss as they fell short of Rajasthan Royals' total by 20 runs. They put in a spirited performance against Punjab Kings in their first home game to register a 21-run victory. In the latest match, Rajasthan Royals on Monday secured their 3rd consecutive victory at the ongoing season of Indian Premier League, defeating Mumbai Indians by 6 wickets. Mumbai Indians, who played their first home game at Wankhede Stadium, have had a terrible start this season as this was their 3rd consecutive defeat as well. Opting to bowl first, Rajasthan restricted Mumbai to 125 for a loss of 9 wickets and chased down the target comfortably with 27 balls remaining. Riyan Parag's score a half century for the second consecutive time this season with an unbeaten 54 of 39 balls on Monday that anchored Rajasthan's successful run chase. So that was a quick wrap from the world of sports. Back to you.
Thank you, Deepika. And before we close, in Tokyo, visitors and locals alike flocked to catch a glimpse of the cherry blossoms before the rainy spell hits. A boat ride among the blossom-decked shores were a delight for the visitors. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India News Hour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. From all of us here in New Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.